Hey everybody, welcome to the Dad Perfect Podcast. I'm David Rasmussen, your host. Thank you for joining me today, and welcome to all of you who are listening for the very first time. As always, I want to extend a special welcome to the wives who are joining us. As fathers, we know that we are nothing without you. Today we are continuing, this is part 2 of the principle Live Consistently, which is the 8th principle of our 9 core principles of perfectly devoted dads. Without further introduction, we're just going to jump right back into where we left off in the last episode. If you need to go back and listen to the previous episode, I recommend you do that. Here we go on part 2 of Live Consistently. Now on to the third element that we want to talk about, that your life is the greatest teacher that your children will have. No matter what you say to them, right? No matter what you preach to them, they're going to watch what you do. And we do this all the time. We are examples to our children in everything, in everyday activities and how we do things, like we mentioned before. I find myself at almost 50 years old still saying things and using phrases or mannerisms that remind me of my dad. They'll just catch me off guard. I'll say something like, oh, wow, that was totally my dad's voice, or that action, that mannerism, right? I can see my dad and I still follow him. Whether we like it or not, our children are going to be influenced by how consistently we live these beliefs, values, and principles. We need to teach them. We need to share them with our children. But the best way that we teach is through our example. And we just need to make sure that our behavior matches these beliefs, values, and principles. Children have this crazy hypocrisy radar. It's like a magic power they have. They can sense hypocrisy in parents in a way that's just uncanny. And we have to make sure that we are living our lives as parents consistently with the values, principles, and beliefs that we want to instill in our family and in them and in our own lives. And when we do that, there is a great power and force in a father who consistently does it, who consistently lives those beliefs, values, and principles that are in your motto and that you're trying to teach. Your children will see it, and they will follow your example, and they will mature knowing that from your example that these principles, values, and beliefs work. They create the results in life that you want them to create, right? They will see those results, and it's as if those results are like a testimony or a witness of truth, if you will, that the principles, values, and beliefs are the right direction to live your life and achieve those things in life that are most important. Another example I want to share with you is something that we just did recently with my father on his 82nd birthday. We, as his children, unfortunately not all of his children were able to make it. It was just some of us there, but we all sat around the dinner table. We enjoyed a wonderful dinner and just talking. And then my sister asked everybody to share something that we have learned about life from our dad. And so all of us, 5 children with in-laws, so 10 of us that were there, all shared at least one thing, sometimes 2 things, about what we learned from my dad's example about, just in life. I'm going to share clips of this with you. I know this is highly personal, but I hope that you will hear the love in the voices, in our voices, and hear those things that my dad taught us through his example. I could go into a lot about it, but it was a really tender moment for our family, and I could see my dad. He teared up quite a bit, and it was a good experience for all. And if you have the opportunity to do something like this, I'd recommend it in the right time. It has to be in the right spirit and the right time, but as a dad, it means a lot when you see that your hard work and everything you've tried to do in your life actually made a difference. So I'm going to share this with you now, and then when it's finished, I will come back on and conclude the podcast.
I was just going to say, I just really appreciate what an example of hard work you are, and grit, and like the tenacity, and just keep moving forward even when things are hard. And I feel like you have taught, your family has learned that skill as well, of just the hard work and tenacity.
Well, I was just thinking how grateful I am for your positive attitude. No matter what. No matter what.
Yeah, you have to say too, so
I know. No matter what happens, you look for the good and you think of all the good things, and you have such an eternal perspective. And I just appreciate all of you.
No, I do appreciate the the integrity that you show in your life in living the things that you believe. I think there are definitely people that don't always agree with everything, but you definitely live what you believe, and that's something that I can't say for other people. So I think that's amazing. Also, just your passion for business and your perspective of how it helps the world. And having agreed with that, we got a lot of us with that bug in us of entrepreneurship.
And I have always been really impressed by just like the gentleness and the kindness that you show your significant other. Because I obviously wasn't around when Susan or Dana were here, but I really can feel that you have such genuine love for your wife. And I love that. That's one thing that I've always really admired about you. And the other thing that I think is really impressive is just your ability to, your kids have learned how to, yes, they may have very long conversations that go in code. To agree, to disagree. I think your kids do a really good job at recognizing that the most important thing is that there's so much give and take in the relationships, and that I've just been really impressed with the sibling relationships and how everybody really honors you and honors their siblings and do it very loyally. And I just think that's very impressive, and obviously it came from you.
So I was just going to say, it kind of ties in a little bit with what Heidi said. The perseverance, one thing I've noticed is that when you do something, you don't give up at the first hardship. And, I think that's one of the keys to your success in so many ways.
So I was going to say, in addition to everything else that's been said, one of the things I admire is you're just a very generous person. I don't think any of us understand everything you have done for people, regardless of their situation or your acquaintance or relationship with them. You've just always been willing to help, and when you saw people in need. And even as a young child, I admire the situations you went through with your family, and I don't think you ever harbored hard feelings about some of the things that happened there with being a stepchild, being your family taking what you had earned when you left to go to the military or to college or your mission, that you were just always willing to help people in need, regardless if they needed it. You didn't begrudge them for it.
And I'm going to go off of his, because but he's you would do it at your own expense and your own sacrifice, buying the home so your family would have somewhere to live, and taking just enough money so that you could have gas to get down to school, but not enough money for you to take care of any of your own expenses.
Or eat.
Right.
To take care of somebody else. And what I was going to add on is that one of the things that I admire most and has helped me a lot is that there's been so many things that have happened to you in your life where you could have become bitter or angry or held a grudge. And I'm one that's coming to mind right now is when those other young men took you out and cut all your hair. And when I talk to you about it, that's bullying. And you always say, but those boys suffered more than I did. And you always are forgiving and worrying about how everybody else is doing, instead of becoming bitter or harboring ill feelings. You're so quick to forgive.
Yeah, another word for, I guess, what they've been saying is you grant them some grace. Mm-hmm. Give them space to make that mistake and not have that be something that tarnishes their relationship with you forever, right? I think you're good at doing that. Something that's maybe a little different. I appreciate your interest in music and dance. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's blessed my life. Allowed me to meet her on a blind date.
That piano has blessed us.
Yeah, and it's just something that I think a lot of us appreciate, as part of both memory and just enjoy as an influence on our own souls.
And down to the grandkids too.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Marty, I love your love of the finer things. The cars, the clothes, the class. I just think that, you can walk in a room and turn heads, and even at 82, you can turn heads, and I think that there's something to that. It's a posh and polish that you carry, and it's something that I think is a dying art, and so I admire that. Because we're doing two, I also say...
I'm the last one. You got to leave something.
I appreciate your ability to share your experiences through your posterity. That my children, and now my daughter-in-law and in-laws, know your stories because of your ability and your passion to share the life experiences that you've had. I think that's a great gift.
So I'm just going to follow on John's comment of the dance and music. First thought I had was, I'm really grateful that you taught us how to sing, an appreciation of music. And I have very fond memories of sitting around the piano with Mom playing and all of us singing our parts and learning how to sing harmony. And I've really enjoyed being in choirs, and this choir I'm in now just brings me a tremendous amount of joy. And I love doing it. And it's because you took the time to teach us. So many people don't learn how to sing. We're really grateful for that. Thank you.
So I got one more, which is just your attention to detail. Just like learning to write. Kind of just the principle. If you're going to do something, do it the best you can. Don't do it halfway. Do it all the very best. Be detailed and thorough, and do it the best you can. And just your writing, your projects, your interests, you always try to make it better and do it the very, very best it can be. It's not okay to sell a product can't be its very best. That attention to detail, and if you're going to do something, do it all the way and do your very best in everything you do.
I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking that. And along with that, you made a conscious choice to better yourself, to... we look at manners and how you hold yourself and how you dress. Mm-hmm. That wasn't taught to you.
That's right.
You sought it. You chose to follow a path, to seek the knowledge and seek the mentors and do the work to become a person, like you said, that you could live with for the rest of your life.
Well, thank you all.
Well,
Carolyn has not said.
Carolyn might say it's hard to get him mad at you. I mean, I try. But he holds his, he doesn't pick a fight. He'll not respond if I'm mad about something. And pretty soon it calms me down, then I'm not mad either. And that's a real gift. And he's very kind, too.
If nothing else, keeping you from getting angry is very worth it.
Yeah, it is, boy, I tell you.
Thank you so much for listening, letting me share that family experience. I hope that you got something out of it. I hope that you had some ideas, some thoughts, maybe some things that you want to implement in your family, in your life, your home, these values, beliefs, and principles. Maybe do something like that with your dad at some point in the future. Didn't take planning, but it was intentional. My sister came in and intentionally asked for us to do that, and it was very worthwhile. So in conclusion, I want to share a little bit more about my dad. I've talked a little bit about him in past episodes, but this one I'm really going to talk about him because his example has had a huge impact on my life, and I think it's one of the best ways I can illustrate this principle of live consistently is to share the example of my dad. Fair warning, I tend to get emotional. I will do my best, but I probably will get emotional, so hopefully it won't distract. But let me tell you a little bit about my dad. So when my dad was 2 months old, his father was killed in a car accident, and he never knew that father. And not long after that, his mother remarried, and he then, with his new father, his stepfather and mother, had more children. So my dad was raised as a stepson in this family. He was one of the older children. He had an older sister, but he was raised as a stepson. And that created a lot of challenges in his life when he was growing up. he, in school, also was bullied pretty severely. He was, at one point, was taken by a group of kids who shaved his head, really nicked up his head, and, kind of mocked him. And he dealt with a lot of stuff like that. But he overcame a lot of it. He became the student body president his senior year in his high school. He went on to serve 2-year mission for his church. He saved up his own money to pay for that, and served a 2-year mission for his church, came home, and all of his money was gone. His family had taken it. His plan was to go to college. He was the first person in his family to go to college. No one had done that before. He wanted to go. His family didn't want him to go, but he was committed to it. He went. So he figured out how to get to college and started working. He was extremely poor in college. When he went to college, it took everything he had just to get to campus. When he got to campus, he had no money, literally no money. And he would live on a box of crackers for the week, is what he would eat. And when he'd walk between classes, he'd have to stop and sit from exhaustion. He couldn't back and off, and he would pass out. He'd just pass out right on the ground. And he was so exhausted and hungry. And then, but he worked hard. He was doing well in school. He was improving. He was starting to get his foothold again after the first year, was starting to save up money again, got money saved up. He was ready to start a business, and he got drafted to go to Vietnam. And repeated the story, came back from 2 years in Vietnam in the Navy. His money was all gone again. His brother had sold his car, he had nothing left again, everything he'd worked to build up. So he went back to college, started over again with nothing, literally nothing, and worked his way back up, right? Built himself back up, and eventually built a business that turned into a successful business much later. But he started a business, got married, and had 3 children, including me. And then after that, then he had 2 more children. Right? My mom had 2 more children, and both of those children died soon after birth. So he's had 2 children pass away. Then they had 1 more baby. So I have 4. There are 4 siblings, me and 3 siblings, so 4 of us. Then my mom got cancer. And after 5 years of fighting cancer, she passed away, leaving him with 4 children spanning the ages of 18 to 8 years old. And he was so exhausted from taking care of her and taking care of the children that he honestly thought, the night before she passed away, he thought that he would not wake up. He was so tired and worn out. But he did. And he then remarried a widow who had 4 boys, and they were younger than us, so he raised 4 more boys, and they joined the family. And after 14 years, again, for the last 5 years of those 14 years, his wife, my stepmom, was very sick. The doctors couldn't figure out what it was, and eventually they figured out that she had something called scleroderma, systemic scleroderma. And if any of you know what scleroderma is, it is horrible, horrible way to die. Your body, your tissue basically turns to stone, and my stepmom's heart it became scar tissue and could no longer pump. It was very painful, very difficult death, very hard on, of course, her, obviously, but also on my dad and the children. So she passed away. So he's had 2 children pass away. He grew up in great poverty, was bullied, struggled with school, went to Vietnam, served in the war. 2 children pass away. First wife passes away. Second wife passes away. Through all of this, close family and friends, members of his church, family members and friends turned on him and started accusing him of just put simply, they started accusing him of being the devil himself for things. And I couldn't understand it, but they did. And here he was. So I look at my dad's life and I think, my goodness, Dad, this is a hard life. He's had a hard life. But the things that I've learned from my dad isn't that life is hard. The things that I've learned from my dad is he is, for me, the greatest example of faith that I know. And he lives his life every day with gratitude and hope that every day is going to be better. And he works to make it that way. He always gets up. He always gets up. Whenever he gets knocked down, he always gets up. And even though he was raised without, and he was a victim of many circumstances, he cares deeply about other people. He tries to make the world better for other people. He doesn't want them to have to live through what he lived through. He doesn't want them to have those experiences, and he works really hard to make sure that other people don't experience what he experienced. I'm going to share 3 stories of how he works. The first story is recently. There was a family, an immigrant family in his neighborhood that he was just watching, observing, and he just saw, and he just thought in his mind, I think they're having a hard time. And so he just, without telling anybody, I don't know if anybody knows other than just close family who we learned about it from his wife, my stepmom telling us, that he just took $1,000 bill, not $1,000 bill, but like, $1,000 in an envelope, slid it under in their door and just wrote on there, I hope you have a good day. That was it. And he does things like that all the time. He just really cares about other people and he wants to help. When I was a teenager, I had a friend in high school, I'll call her Laura, and we got to the end of our senior year and everyone was making college plans of where we're going. And she was over at my house and we were talking and he came in and was asking Laura where she was planning to go to school. And she said she had been accepted to a state university here, but she wasn't going to go because her family didn't have the money to pay for her college and she didn't get a scholarship. And we just kept talking, and kind of as the conclusion of the conversation, my dad got up and he left the room, nothing unusual. And a few minutes later, he came back and he handed a check. And he said, here's enough money to pay for your first year of college, to pay for your tuition, your housing, your books, your food, go to college. And she did. She went on to not only finish college, she got a bachelor's degree, she went on and she got a master's degree. He does stuff like that all the time. And it's a great example to me of being generous, but he's not just generous when he has money. A lot of time in his life, he has not had money and he's still generous. I was working with my dad right out of my bachelor's degree, working with him in the family business. And a man came into the office raising money for, again, a local university. My dad believes strongly in education. Raising money to, I can't remember, I think it was build a building for this university. This is a church-owned university, the church that we belong to. And I could see my dad listening and to the pitch, to the ask, and this man asked for a $200,000 contribution from my dad. And I knew my dad didn't have it because I've been working with him. I knew what the business books were. I knew, what his paycheck was, my paycheck, because I was helping with that. I knew that he didn't have it. And so I was shocked when he turned to the man and said, how much time can you give me to get you this money? I thought, what? And the man told him, and I asked my dad, I said, Dad, how? And my dad committed to it. He said, I'll do it. I said, Dad, how? We don't have that money. You don't have that money. How you could do it? And he said, the Lord has given me everything I have. If he needs me to give $200,000, then he will help me find it. And guess what? He did. He found it. He made it, and he met his commitment. That's the kind of man that he is. And most of all, he loves his family. He loves us. And it always hasn't been perfect, and it hasn't been easy. There are things that have been really difficult with my dad. There are things where I didn't understand that made life really tough and made me wonder if he did love me. But as I've grown, I've learned and I've matured and I've seen the truth that he loves me and all of his children very, very deeply. So without question, my dad has kept his lower light burning brightly on the shore. Even when the sea of life has battered him and knocked him down, he's always gotten up and kept that light burning for us because he loves us. Dad, I love you. Thank you. I want to thank all of you who are listening today. I know this is kind of a very personal one, and I hope you can understand why. As I share some of these experiences about my dad, I know I glossed over a lot. It was just a really quick story about my dad. But my dad lives his life consistently. And because of that, we as his children all know that. And we can see what life is like when you live according to these values, beliefs, and principles. So thank you for indulging me as I shared some of these very personal experiences with you. In the next episode, we will complete the series on introducing the 9 principles of perfectly devoted dads. Principle number 9 is one of my favorites. I could probably say that about all of them. But principle number 9 is be amazed. Our children need to know that we not only believe in them, but that they are amazing. And that we, as their dads, who know them inside and out, believe that they are amazing. Because if we believe in them, they can believe in themselves. I hope you'll come and join and listen to this next podcast. Thank you so much for listening today. This has been the Dad Perfect podcast. Thank you for listening. If you want more, you can get it. More resources, more tips and strategies, more dads and moms sharing experiences, and much more. Simply go to dadperfect.com and sign up. That's dadperfect.com to sign up for more. Until next time, remember, you are the perfect dad for your family. You are Dad Perfect.